Okay, this is going to be session 02B, mechanics. We're going to open up one of the logic files we'd been working with earlier called I Was Here. You can see I've got the Mac screen just very plain. I'm in Finder right now. And if you don't know where that is, you can just press Command N and it should open up a whole window here. Okay. So normally Logic will have generated its own sidebar folder right here. It says Logic. So let's open that up. We'll just click on it and see what's in there. Yeah, there's I Was Here. So this is that file that doesn't have anything recorded on. So I'm going to double click on that and it'll open up Logic. Might take a second or two. And then we have our 4 tracks that we created in the last session. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is press the key that says X, and we'll see what happens here. So if I press X, now I see it's interesting. If I press X again, that's going to go away. So you just gotta have to get used to the fact that Logic and most of the workstation software, they have 2 screens. One's the transport screen, which is laid out so you can see the music go by from left to right, but the tracks are stacked on top of each other. And then the mixer screen is the exact opposite. The tracks are more like a mixer, but you don't see the progress unless you have both windows open. So you kind of have to get used to the fact that you're going to see the tracks come in a different configuration horizontally here with the sliders and all that. So I want to take a quick look at what is happening in these slider areas right here. So one of the most important one is where it says input, and we'll go back to preferences just for a second here. Preferences, audio. Now this is where this should say PreSonus, audio box 2 for the output and the input. That should be generating without your help or anything. If you have the PreSonus hooked up, that will be what that says. So we just want to check that, make sure that is what is happening there. Now PreSonus Audio Box I2 only has 2 tracks. So if I go down here to input, I'm looking here, I know it's small, but it says in 1, and if I press that, I could actually go input 2 or 1. I could actually change that to a 2. And the other interesting thing is I could actually change it to a stereo if I click on this little circle. I'm not sure what that actually means. It means there's one circle, and if I click on it, you can see there's 2 concentric circles. So now it says in 1 and 2. And that's your only option if it's stereo. So that little icon where it's 2 intersecting circles is the icon for record in stereo. So I'm going to change it back to just 1, channel 1, because I'm going to record on a guitar track here in a second. But what I want to do to get this track ready, notice I have everything working. You might be using headphones, it doesn't matter. Your metronome setting is the key K, that can go on or off. So I'm going to leave it on here. You can hear I'll probably return to get to the beginning of the song. I never record from measure 1. I usually will wait till like measure 3, or I can even wait longer. But what I want to do to get this track going, you could do it either way. I'm going to just go ahead and use the mixing screen here. Remember, you can make that appear or disappear with the X key, doesn't matter. And there's a little R down here for record, and then there's an I for input. And you really want to get both of those. I think the record is flashing because it isn't moving yet. It means it's ready. And the I means input. In other words, you're going to hear that in your headphones or your speakers, but we're going to have... So if I start And I'm going to look up here. If I start recording, as soon as I press R on the keyboard, that's down here on the keyboard, not just the space bar, I have to press R, and you should see a recording taking place. Yeah. Now what happened was the recording didn't start for one measure, so I can go up to record. I don't like it to do that. Let's see here. So count in. I'm going to say none. I don't care for that function. So I'm going to undo that. That's option Z. Let me rewind again. So as soon as I press R, this is going to start recording from 1 now. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, I'm going to show you a nice little trick. Sometimes it's a little weird to have these be so small. So if I press Command and the arrow key, everything gets bigger, and I can press the time key, that's the other arrow to the right, and you can see the measures getting closer together or further apart. So I can have a bigger kind of display, if you will. You don't want to go crazy on that, but maybe a little bit bigger is nice. So return. If I'm kind of ready, I'll go back to the X key here, but now I've got a nice kind of larger display of what's going to happen here. So I'm still in record ready mode, and I'm going to plug a guitar in. Very simple track. I'm going to go input. When you do direct injection, you do want to press this little button under here. It has a little guitar icon on it. You can see it there, so it's easy to remember. And that will go on. That's my direct injection. So that's number 1. That's number 2. So obviously number 1. It gives you a little more heat on your guitar or your bass. Now I've got my Stratocaster plugged into the direct injection. You can hear that. And I'll go ahead and press record. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and I meant to go to the bridge right there. And let's do that again. So I'm back to the A section. So I'll stop that. That's just the space bar stopping that. Return, rewind. Let's see how it works. That's just the space bar. I'm going to turn off the click. I don't need to hear that for right now. I know I played it okay, so. So there's my progression. Now I can shrink this screen so you can see that the space bar. Let's get the X out of here too. And that's where I meant to go to the bridge. And I know I played the bridge twice, once incorrect and then I played it again. So I'm going to show you a little editing trick here. So right there at 21 is where I really wanted that bridge to come in. Okay, so one of the things we want to do here, you always want to look at your snap. Snap can be turned off, which I don't actually see up here. Hang on. Snap to grid. Okay, you can turn it off. Notice it said snap to grid, which is Command G. That's a really good one to know. I can turn it off, but if I want to edit, I always want to have that on. And the smart control is the best one, but you also want to change it to this one. Snap regions to absolute value. I'm not sure why they have it defaulting to relative value. That's useless. Absolute value meaning it's right on the grid of the measure numbers. Okay, so measure 21 was where I wanted that bridge to start. Now I need to cut this track and have that start at 15. So I need to bring this music over to here. Very simple. You need to select the track. You can do it. You can drag and color that, or you can click in it. You have to click in it for it to react to the cut command. And the cut command isn't to C, it's T as in trim. I don't know where they get these key commands, but you're best learn them. So if I press Command T, you'll notice what happens. Oh, so right there is the bridge that I wanted to start right at 15. Now at that point, you can see the right half is already selected. Now if I click, I can unselect that. Let's say I wanted to do it this direction. I could do it that way. But right now, I think I'm just going to drag this track by selecting it. I can drag it over and you can see it's going to stay adhering to that click. The grid, they call it. So I can put it right on 15, right there. Okay, so I'll go back and we'll see how that edit sounds. Yeah. Okay, so if I go back, now you have to go back and click up in the number area for the cursor to move. If you do, nothing's going to happen if you try to. You can grab the cursor and move it, or you can click over here. You see how that's working? Yeah, you don't have to grab the cursor. You can just put the, it's like a different kind of cursor. You can see it's got these two double arrows, and I can go over there. So, okay, here's the bridge. Now I might want to enlarge that and look at that seam. This is where I would turn the grid off. So I know how to do that. That's Command G. And that should say off now. And what's really cool is if I select this track, which was the bridge, you can see very clearly. Now I need to move over a little bit. So you need to get your commands, how your mouse works. And if you look very carefully here, what happened to the cursor is it changed. And if I move that over, you can see I can actually grab the side of the music. So when I played it right at 15, I was actually a little early on that chord, but I actually want that human factor in there. So I'm going to move that over, and I'm also going to go up here into this little area. It's a little hard to see it, but I'm going to select what's called the fade tool. You always want to get that going when you start these tracks. And then I'm going to grab the arrow tool and I'm going to select it just to the left of this. So this is a crossfade, and you can see what happens there. Very cool. And I'm just going to enlarge or shrink the window, go back. Yeah, so it has a little bit more natural. So I'll go back here and listen to this. We can put the click on. Now the click makes it sound a little dopey, but if I wanted to add the drums, that's another function that we'll get into. Okay, so the only other thing I want to do here is now I want to name this track. I'll name it Electric Rhythm. So what I want to do is go over to the track layout here, the audio, and I'm going to double click in audio 1. So now I just want to type ELEGTR01. And maybe I'll put RHY, rhythm guitar. And then just press enter. Now I've got that track named. So that's another reason why I didn't start trying to record at the very beginning, because it's very common in guitar playing that you're going to play a few notes right before the measure starts. So I did that on purpose. Do-do-do-do. So I played that pickup note. Yeah, you could tell that it came in actually at the end of bar 2. So I always want to have a little bit of a lag time before the tune starts. So starting on measure 3 makes a lot of sense to me. You could actually start on measure 5 or wherever you want. If it's a slow song, I could start on measure 2 because it would be going on. But this is going 154. That's pretty fast. So I'm going to rewind, return, press K. Let's hear the beat, and then I can press that K key, get out of there if I don't want to hear that much clicking. Okay, here it comes. And of course I can increase the volume. That's this slider right here. It's very pale. It's not very pretty. Or I can press the X key and use the slider. That's down here now. Same thing. Let's go back to the click. So obviously all that mistake stuff that I did when I messed up the bridge is gone. So I just brought the track over and butted it up there, get the timing right with the grid control on, and then turn the grid control off to fine tune that seam, and then put a little crossfade there. So very interesting, all the little details you can even start to do at this point.